All right, for this one, we're basically putting on our detective hats. We're going to crack a case that's been hiding in plain sight, right inside the traffic data from Thiruvananthapuram, India.
We've all been there, right? Stuck in traffic, just totally frustrated. But let's kick things off with a question that kind of changes everything. What if all that chaos on the road isn't random? What if some of it is actually, orchestrated? And that question? That's exactly where our investigation kicks off. We're about to open up a case file, one that's built from vehicle surveillance logs, and it points to something way more organized and, honestly, a lot more unsettling than just a few bad drivers. So here's what we're looking at. The core of our case file is 124 incident reports, and these are not just minor fender benders. The data shows this really sharp spike in what they call high-severity events between December 2025 and February 2026. And just to be super clear, we are not talking about traffic jams here. We're talking about systematic, targeted provocation out on the road.
Okay, so the case is officially open. Now we do what any good detective would do. We just follow the data. Let's start combing through the evidence, piece by piece, starting with the very first clues that pop out from the logs. So, the very first thing that jumps out from the data is who's involved. Yeah, there's a mix, but look at this. Private bikes and cars are just dominating the logs. They account for the huge majority of vehicles in these incidents. So that tells us right away, our investigation needs to focus on everyday vehicles, not so much the commercial ones.
And boom, this is where we get our first big break in the case. Just look at the difference in license plate clarity. It drops a lot in the recent incident logs. Now, that's not a camera glitch or just a string of bad luck. A drop this big points to only one thing. Somebody is trying to hide on purpose.
Let's really zero in on that number for a second. 3.34 out of 5. That is the average clarity score from these recent events. And when you pair that score with all the reports of plates being obscured or missing, well, it's not a coincidence anymore, is it? It's a tactic. This is our first real piece of hard evidence that someone is actively trying not to be seen.
Okay, quick recap. We know our subjects are mostly in private cars and on bikes. We know their main tactic is to hide who they are. So, the next logical step in any investigation is to map out the crime scene. Where is all this going down? And, this is the critical part, when? So this isn't just happening randomly all over the city. The data points us to a handful of really specific hotspots. And these aren't just random spots on a map. They feel like carefully chosen operational zones. We're talking about the NH66 service road, the Chakai Highway area, and a couple of key spots near Valakadavu and Palyam Airport Road.
And just like the locations, the timing isn't random at all. You can see a clear escalation through the day. It kind of starts with some passive monitoring around midday, then it ramps up to genuinely dangerous driving in the afternoon. But that critical window, the real red zone, is between 8 and 9 p.m. That's when the logs show coordinated, organized group activity.
And when we started cross-referencing the time and location data, something just jumped off the page. A tactic so clear, it was the moment everything clicked into place. It's this recurring signature move that we're calling the 15-minute pattern. And let me tell you, this is the smoking gun that proves this isn't just random road rage. It is a coordinated strategy. So here's exactly how the pattern works. Step 1, a vehicle does a high-speed pass on a target. Step 2, that same vehicle then pulls over at what the logs call an unusual stop, like a service road or an underpass, and just waits. Then, Step 3, almost exactly 15 minutes later, it pops back up to harass the very same target all over again. I mean, this is calculated, this is planned. So we've got the method, we have the where and the when. Now we can start putting some faces, or, at least some license plates, to these actions. Let's use the data to build out some profiles of our key subjects, kind of like our own be on the lookout board for the main players here. First, just look at this statistic. A single vehicle is responsible for nearly 10% of all these documented incidents. I mean, that kind of frequency, it screams ringleader, a main instigator who's driving a whole lot of this activity. And here it is, our primary person of interest. Registration MH03BX939 *. Its main hunting ground is the NH66 service road, and its peak hours line up perfectly with that afternoon window where all the dangerous driving really starts to escalate. But it's not just one car. Oh no. The logs also identify a group they call the biker gang, usually on KTM and Pulsar models. Their specialty? Aggressive, high-speed maneuvers called lane-weaving tackles, and sometimes they even make contact. And they operate with scary precision, totally owning that 8 p.m. critical risk window near the Chakai Highway.
And this whole operation even has a support crew. We're seeing pairs of Innova Cristas with these event stickers that seem to work as spotters. They engage in target acquisition by tailgating, and they're backed up by a TVS scooter with no front plate that acts as a diversion, just weaving through traffic to create total chaos. So there you have it. The case is laid out. We've got the players, the locations, their entire playbook. But this isn't just some interesting crime story. The most important part of all of this is figuring out how this intelligence can help keep you safe. So now let's pivot to your own personal tactical safety guide.
Look, your best strategy is always going to be avoidance. Based on the data, here are some really smart alternate routes. To skip that high-risk NH66 service road, just take the main elevated highway. It completely bypasses their waiting zones. And near the Chakai underpass, if you can, reroute through PETA. That'll help you steer clear of the biker's main starting point. Now, if you can't avoid these areas, you gotta keep this defensive checklist in your head. First, recognize the 15-minute pattern. Second, stay off those service lanes during the peak afternoon and evening hours. Third, pay extra close attention to any vehicle with a missing or messed up plate, especially after 8 p.m. And probably the most important thing, if you think you're being targeted, maintain a steady speed and do not pull over or stop.
I know this all sounds really intimidating, but here's the thing. The data also gives us the single most powerful tool for staying safe. Look at this number. More than 2/3 of the drivers who ran into these guys managed to de-escalate the whole situation and just drive away safely.
And how did they do it? Their method was so simple but unbelievably effective. It all boiled down to one single principle. They just refused to engage. No eye contact, no angry gestures, no honking back, nothing. The data could not be clearer on this. Your silence is your shield. Disengaging is literally the most powerful safety strategy you have.
So in the end, a pile of data helped us uncover this whole organized system that was just hiding in the noise of everyday traffic. And it really makes you wonder, right? This was one city's mystery, and we solved it. What hidden patterns are playing out on the roads you travel every single day?